Hey chat, it's Crafty Type 1, and today Pokemon Legends Z-A comes out. But a bunch of people got the game early, whether that be from review copies or from other means. In this video, I'm going to talk about one thing in particular though, the performance on the Switch 1. Because we all know that the Switch 2 is going to perform better. We know it's going to have better textures, a better FPS, but what about the people who only have a Switch 1? It has been a little suspicious ever since the Switch 2 version has gotten announced. That's all the trailers that we've seen. So, has Game Freak been hiding something? In this video, I'll go over it all. Before we get into that, I am doing a Legends Z-A giveaway that we'll be doing live on stream today. Just subscribe, comment on this video, and you'll be entered. I'll do the drawing live when I start playing Z-A. Best of luck. I have been a bit busy, so I wish I would have gotten this sooner. But this video by Analista, they'll be in the description down below, actually came out about like 4 days ago when the original leak came out for Pokemon Legends Z-A. And they broke down everything when it came to the performance of the Switch 1 compared to the Switch 2 versions of Legends Z-A. And as you can see right now, the rumored 120 kind of performance mode is not present in the Switch 2 version. I know we kind of talked about this in my podcast, but there is no 120 FPS mode. It does go up. The Switch 2 version does go up to 2K with 60 FPS, and from what I've heard from reviewers and everything, it is a stable 60 FPS. But going into the Switch 1 version docked, it is going to be a solid 30 FPS at 1080, and it is 30 at best. This is from another creator by the name of Switch Up, who also did an in-depth kind of review of the performance, and it is good in some aspects. For example, like in the hotel rooms, of course you get that constant 30, but when you're out in the open world with all the foliage, all the people, with all the Pokemon, it's a bit rough. And as you can see right now on screen, it is crazy. In handheld mode as well, on the Switch version, it's 720p, but apparently, just like most Switch 1 games, it looks a bit better just because it's on a smaller screen. So I get it. Texture quality is something that's actually huge. So we do know that the Switch 1 version is 4 gigs, while the Switch 2 version is about like 7.3 gigs. So there's almost basically double the game size for the Switch 2 version, and that's mainly from texture quality, because what we've seen from these previews or these early showings is that gameplay is not affected at all, which makes sense. But texture wise, it is really bad, and you can even see in this scene right here, seeing 30 FPS next to 60 FPS, it is actually quite crazy. Apparently the game does run a bit better in handheld mode as well, which is to be expected. Again, at 720p, it's less data image pixels to process, so it makes sense for the game to run a bit better. Just to recap, while we have some gameplay up on screen, the Switch 1 reaches a maximum resolution of 1080p, but in reality, with textures and the way rendering is built into the game, which we also see a lot, it is more like 800p. And an example I'm going to put on screen that actually was shown a little bit ago. Look at this Magikarp. Look at the tiles. That was crazy. But this is what they mean by it basically being 800p, even though the resolution is 1080. Bro, Magikarp is so pixelated. It is honestly kind of crazy to see like that. And I'm pretty sure, like, if you were to not have experienced the Switch 2 before, this is just going to be like it's going to be like a Scarlet and Violet situation. It probably runs a bit better than Scarlet and Violet, but does it look better than Scarlet and Violet? Probably not. So if we didn't have the Switch 2 version, I think this would have been like an okay, but comparing it to the Switch 2, it is actively bad. And then, of course, like without a doubt, the improvements that come with the Switch 2 version is actually pretty significant. The Switch 2 reaches, 2K with 60 FPS. That's pretty constant. I think it actually is constant. I haven't heard a lot of reviewers and previewers say there's dips, while the Switch 1 version reaches a maximum of 30, and that isn't constant. That is still a little all over the place. The Switch 2 again shows up-res textures, basically doubling the size of the game. But one thing that I didn't know, the Switch 2 version, of course, shadow quality. But one big thing is foliage and like stuff that you don't really interact with in the game, but just kind of overall atmosphere. So there's a lot more grass, apparently a lot more bushes, a lot more trees, a lot more dynamic and kind of swaying and stuff like that that isn't present within the Switch 1 version. If we were to go back to this, part of the video as well, the draw distance is another big thing that we could see comparing to both of them. Just looking at when flipping between these two right now, you could see how far the shadows as well as the trainers pop in. And I think, just looking at this now where they're comparing the frame rates, you could actually see the level of pop in between the two. And it is actually, it's just so much more noticeable on the Switch 1, which again, to be expected. Same thing with Scarlet and Violet. One thing that I didn't really mention is there's like very small loading screens. Of course, when entering into a wild zone, it has to load all of those things. And that's where your frames dip a ton. I think actually in the Switch 1 version, it is a full-on stop. Like, let's see here. I believe there's a good. While the Switch 2 just kind of goes right through. There's like a stutter. I don't know if you guys are seeing that. Maybe I'm crazy, but it could take you out of the game if that's noticeable for you. But something, again, if you don't have the Switch 2 version, you could probably get used to. That kind of wraps up my thoughts. A lot of people were thinking that Legends Z-A was designed for the Switch 2 and then ported to the Switch 1. But no, this game was clearly developed to be able to run on the Switch 1. And it does, to the level a little bit better than Scarlet and Violet. If we all were able to put up with Scarlet and Violet, I'm pretty sure we'll all be able to put up with the Switch 1 version of Legends Z-A. But this game clearly was designed for the Switch 1 to a point where the Switch 2 is just improvements all around, because it's not trying to push the hardware to its absolute limits. It's just utilizing that extra kind of space. I am super excited to actually play this on the Switch 2 today. So don't forget to subscribe to get notified when I go live and be there when I announce the giveaway winner. But let me know what version you guys are playing. I'm actually kind of happy to see the results of which I was kind of worried that this game was actually going to run worse than Scarlet and Violet, but I'm glad to see that the Switch 1 version is actually pretty comparable to the Switch 2. Of course, the Switch 2 gets, extra lighting, extra shadows and stuff like that. But if I didn't have a Switch 2, I think I'd still enjoy my time with Legends Z-A. But yeah, let me know what game you're playing, comment section down below, and I will see you guys live in a few hours.